art friends, welcome back to another episode of Create with Miss Carrie. Today we're going to make a beautiful landscape and we're going to add some fun little twists to our painting. But what inspired me for this painting was a great story about a group of friends who did an art project together. And some of the friends had different ideas on what they could paint together. So if you've ever worked on an art project together or a school project together, you probably understand that sometimes working together is hard and you have to support each other even if we're different. So in this story, we've got some paintbrush friends who do a beautiful masterpiece together, and they accept each other's differences and they incorporate and make parts of those differences parts of the masterpiece, and it turns out amazing in the end. So it's a really fun story and an exciting art project, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's read the story. It's called The Masterpiece, written by Mr. J, painted by Luis Perez. In the back of the studio, behind lumps of clay, to the left of a canvas where the paint cans would spray, on a dusty old table that was littered with chalk, the paintbrushes gathered for an artistic talk. The first one to speak was a paintbrush named Reese, who said, "Let's create a grand masterpiece, something with color to fill many pages, to be remembered by all and to last through the ages." The paintbrushes cheered and raced to begin, except for one brush, who didn't join in. A brush named Estelle sat off to the side and stared at the wall with her eyes open wide. She rocked back and forth as though in a small boat and sang to herself with a single low note. Her single-tone song, her continuous hum, and the others knew well where this hum had come from. They had heard it before and knew this was her way. Then two went on over to ask her to play. They gave her some paint, red, yellow, and blue. "If you'd like to come paint, we'd love to have you." So the brushes got started with large, vibrant strokes, painting valleys and lakes, elm trees and oaks. They created a forest with a sleepy brown fox, and on one of the hillsides, they painted some rocks. They all worked together, setting mood, theme, and tone. When they noticed that Byron had gone off on his own, he ignored all the others. He had not made a sound. He just painted in circles, around and around. It was clearly quite different. There could be no denying, but they didn't make fun or send him off crying. Instead, they all stopped and Reese gathered the crew, and for just a few moments, they made circles too. They painted some more and worked well as a team, when then suddenly heard a startling scream. They jumped back in shock and turned round to see that the one who had screamed was a paintbrush named Lee, who spun all around, shaking all of his bristles as paint hit the canvas like green dotted missiles. Then he made a green splotch and an angry green line, while Reese calmed the others. "Don't worry, it's fine." "He just can't control it. There's no need to be scared, and the next time it happens, you'll be more prepared." The outburst had ended, and they all settled down and added more colors, pink, purple, and brown. They worked through the day, then stopped and admired the wisdom their now painted canvas inspired. Their painting was perfect. It all meshed just fine, with its colorful circles and angry green line. It was a true masterpiece. Not one thing was wrong, including the hum of their single-note song. The end. Today we're going to make a masterpiece, and we're going to use a lot of the things that you see in the masterpiece that the paintbrush has created. So we've got some mountains, some good trees, a rainbow, we've got a lake and a sailboat. There's all sorts of things that we can add. What I love about this book is that they turn things that could be seen as mistakes into part of the artwork, and it ends up looking beautiful. So we're going to do some things to our artwork to make it not so perfect. Sometimes when we're artists, we have a hard time when we think we make a mistake, but I think you can turn mistakes into something wonderful. So we're going to give that a try today and see if we can make a masterpiece that looks as good as the paintbrushes. I'm going to draw with a marker so you can see it nice and bright, but I would say let's grab a paint or a pencil to do our drawing first, and then we'll switch to some oil pastels, or you can use crayons or markers, and I might even use some of these paint sticks. These are a really cool thing that I just picked up at the art store, so I'm going to try those out too. Okay, so we're going to make a line that starts across the middle of the page, and then we're going to add some hills. There's one, and then I'm going to lift up my pencil and I'm going to do another one. It's going to go up and down. So we've got two nice big hills in the background. Maybe there's a few more little distant mountains way back here. Good. All right, let's add a little house that kind of sits right here at the bottom of the mountain. So I'm going to draw 3 sides of a square and then a triangle for the rooftop. And I want to make it 3D. So what I'm going to do is draw a line from the point where the roof meets the bottom, and then do another line at the top of the roof. And these 2 lines go in the same direction. That's called parallel. And then I'm going to connect them. So now we have a roof, and we just have to draw a line from the corner of the roof down to the bottom. Maybe there's a little door there. There we go. Okay, living next to that house is probably a nice tree. So I'm going to draw a little tree trunk and a cute little fluffy tree. He's far away, so we don't have to have a lot of details back there. How about we do a lake over here? So right where the bottom of my mountain ends, I'm going to continue that line all the way across. That's going to be the top edge of our lake, and then I'm going to wiggle it around like that. So we have a lake, and we can put a sailboat in there. So the bottom of the sailboat would be flat because the rest of it is down in the water. And because it's so far away, you probably aren't going to see much details on the sailboat. But we'll put a nice little triangle for its sail, and that's the mast right there. All right, let's keep going. How about we add a few more trees? We'll do some trees that kind of live on this side of the mountain. There's one, here's another one. They're kind of hanging out together. And then let's do sort of a little area here. I'm just going to draw a line so I have a place to set my little trees down here. I'm going to do a few trees that are down here in front, and they can be different sizes. And then I think I'm going to have a big tree that's in front of all this stuff. So sometimes we have things that are way far away in the distance, and sometimes we have things that are way up close. So my tree that's going to be way up close is going to start way down here. So watch this. This is the outside of the tree trunk. And I'm going to go up, 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 like this and stop. And then I'm gonna make like a little root. You know how the roots kind of stick out of the ground a little bit? So that one's kind of going into the grass here, and that one's going into the grass there. And then we can do some lines to kind of show that this is a tree trunk. And we'll paint that to make it look more tree-like. Okay, we know that we're gonna have some leaves on this tree. So this is sort of where the tree goes off the edge of the paper, but I'm just making little like curly cues to show that there are leaves on the trees that we can see way up in the sky. All right, let's see, what else could we add? Maybe, should we have a little lighthouse? I think that might be neat. So we have a sailboat. Maybe there's a lighthouse that lives right here. So it's not really a rectangle, it's fatter at the bottom. It's almost like you're making the letter A. And then I'm going to put sort of a rectangle sitting on top, and then give it a little roof. And since I have a line that's going through it, I'm gonna turn that into my pattern. So see how I added another stripe and now it looks like it has stripes? So sometimes you just work with what you have. Okay, let's do a few things down here by the lake. Maybe this lake has some nice tall grasses. One of my favorite things in the summertime is when you find cattails. And a lot of times you'll find them where around water, because I think they like to live around water. So I'm doing some tall grasses down in front. See, this is in the foreground. That means it's closest to you, just like this big tree over here. And because this tree is so big, maybe we can do, I'm gonna do a cute little ladybug down in the corner just because I think it's super cute and it's coming up on the summertime. There we go. Give it its little antenna. There, it's happy, living by the tree. Okay, I think we have a lot of good things in here. I'm going to switch to, I'm gonna try out these paint crayons. What are these called? They're not called paint crayons, they're called paint sticks. So paint sticks are kind of, well, they're like paint that's in a stick form. We're just gonna see what it does, and then I'm gonna see what happens when I add watercolors to it, because I'm not quite sure. So I'm gonna start in the water and go back and forth and do some sort of ripples in the water. We're gonna paint with watercolors, so I don't have to color in the whole thing. This is just to add what we call texture. All right, so I've got that. I wanna try what they did in the story. Remember they said that one of their friends who was working on the art project together started drawing in circles. And so instead of getting upset that they weren't doing the same thing as what everybody else was doing, they said, well, why don't we just draw in circles too? So I'm gonna put some spirals in the sky because I think that would look kind of neat. And we're just gonna see how we can work these spirals into our artwork because I think it's gonna make it look really kind of cool. All right, so I've got some yellow spirals. Maybe I'll grab an orange and do some orange as well. All right, let's keep adding a few more details. Let's see, I'm gonna draw a couple of things red. The roof of my little house is gonna be red, and the door maybe. And I'm gonna do this sailboat, the sail on the sailboat red. And how about we make this lighthouse red and white stripes? I think that'll look nice. Oh, we've got a little ladybug that can be red. And that might be all the red that we have. Okay, how about, let's get out some greens. All right, I've got two different greens. So you can be doing this with oil pastels too. I'm just trying out something new to see how it works. Okay, so I'm going to do some little spirals and circles with my different shades of green so that we look like we have some beautiful trees up in the sky. There we go. And then we can add a little bit of this onto our trees and maybe a little bit in our grassy areas. And see, I'm not really filling them in, am I? I'm just sort of adding a little bit of squiggles to each area because I'm going to go back and paint on top of this. All right, I've got a brown oil pastel that I'm going to fill in some lines inside my tree trunk. And then I'm going to go back in and do a little tree trunk for all these faraway trees also. And oh, the cattails, they're brown. So I'm going to fill those in brown and maybe even the sailboat. Okay. What else can we add? I forgot about that little grassy area right there. Let's work in a rainbow. So I'm going to try to figure out how I can fit a rainbow in here. All right, so I need my rainbow colors. Let's see. Let's see if I have them all. Red, that says brick red. I really don't want a brick red. This is a bright red. So red, yellow, orange. I need a green, a blue, and a violet. All right, I've got my rainbow colors. Let's see, I'm going to make my rainbow sort of work right in the middle. So you're going to see it disappear behind the trees. See how I put just a little bit peeking through those? Let's go to my orange. My yellow. Green. And purple. And I think the last thing that I'm going to add is I'm going to find my white oil pastel and I'm going to add some little white birds floating through the sky. So you're not going to be able to see them very well because they're white on white paper, but when we start to add the watercolors, all of a sudden they will appear. I think I'm going to put some ripples in my water too. So I'm going to put some white stripes in that water. All right, so we have our good swirls in there. We've got all of the different parts of the pretty landscape that we want to add. Now we're going to add some paint and we're going to do some kind of fun stuff with it. So let me get all this out of the way and pull my paints over. Okay, now remember, when you're painting with watercolors, you have to get your paintbrush wet before you dive right into the watercolors. So I'm going to do that. And let's see, there's my blue. I'm going to swish it around in my blue. And let's see what happens when I start painting on top of all these different crayons and tempera sticks and things. Let's see what goes on. You can still see them through there, and can you see what's happening? I just found two of my birds. So I'm using a nice big paintbrush because we're painting a large part of our artwork, but if I was using a little painting a little part, then I would switch to a smaller paintbrush. All right, I'm gonna let the sky dry and clean my brush a little bit. And let's add some paint to our lake. Or maybe this is the beginning of a sea, I'm not sure. It goes off the page, so we don't know what it is. So I think this book is a good lesson on how to work with others that are different from you and how to really be supportive of each other, because we're all different and we all respond to things differently. So have you ever been in a situation where like you were very uncertain or nervous or uncomfortable and somebody came along and made you feel better? I feel like that's how we should be towards each other all the time. So this book really shows how the paintbrushes helped each other when they were nervous or they did something differently. They were so supportive of each other, and I love that. Okay, so I did the lake, I did the sky. I'm gonna make a few of my mountains sort of purpley color. I like when the mountains far away have a purple color, because when I go for drives, I can see the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the Blue Ridge Mountains look kind of bluish purple in the distance, which is where they got their name. So I just love it. Okay, I'm gonna make that one bluish purple, and then I'm gonna make this one have a bluish purple to it. And then maybe the others I will paint with a green. There we go. So do you remember in this story, there was one character, one little paintbrush, who got so excited that the paintbrush sort of made splatters all over the place. Like sometimes he was excited and then I think he got a little frustrated and he made like a bright green line. So here's what I'd like us to do, because I think it's fun just to see what might happen if we do a little splattering. So here's how you do a splatter paint without, hitting your mom's ceiling. So I'm going to take a paintbrush and get it a little bit wet and put some green. I'm going to load it up with green paint. See how much green paint I have? And then let's see what happens if I tap it. So it's kind of like we're going to use our paintbrush like drumsticks. So I'm going to hold the one with paint right on over and I'm going to go tap, 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 tap. And it's going to go speckly. It's adding speckles. Ooh, I think I just got my face. It adds speckles to your painting. And you don't really get to control where it goes, but I think it's going to look really neat when we're all done. All right, that was kind of fun. I want to try another speckle. Maybe I'll do some speckles in teal, since that's one of my favorite colors. So I loaded it up with the turquoise teal, and I'm going to, speckle it. And when it dries, it's going to look really neat and beautiful. Let's see, should we do any more? Maybe I'll do one more here. How about, I want to get a purpley color. Let's see what happens when we speckle with purple. Cool. All right. So I have some fun speckles everywhere, and this is going to take a little while to dry, but I think when it's done, it's going to be this beautiful masterpiece that we had some control over, but some things we let just happen. And I think when you're working with a group of people, that's really fun, just to see what happens when you work together and you support each other. So I hope you have fun experimenting with this type of artwork, and I will see you next week for another fun art project. Have a great week, everybody.